The last part, the pyramids of the sun.
They come to the south of France because of the sun. Everybody looks for the sun.
July and August, you can't find a hotel room, you can't find a campsite, everything's absolutely overflowing.
It's practically unbelievable that in 20 years things have changed so much.
Our hero learns of the toughness of a mountain race and the obstinacy of their donkeys, and, in an ancient land, discovers architecture of the future.
It was really a wild country, and they decided to build these modern cities. If you go to the coast, you will see crowds.
In the beginning, it was very difficult because people said to us, oh, it's not good, it's not nice, what are you doing here? But quickly, they understood, and these people said to me, it's a wonderful town you built. Everywhere, La Grande Motte is known. It is the flag. This is the flag of this country.
Bernard Hinault en deuxième position qui va peut-être revenir sur Job Zoetemelk dans ce Tour de France. Bernard Hinault qui revient, Bernard Hinault qui va peut-être l'emporter. Zoetemelk toujours en tête. Zoetemelk toujours en tête. Attention pour l'arrivée. Bernard Hinault, top Bernard Hinault. Les deux bras en l'air. Premier Bernard Hinault, deuxième Job Zoetemelk. Bernard Hinault, les deux bras en l'air donc qui vient de remporter bien sûr ce Tour de France.
Bicycling was in the air, or at any rate on the radio, as I sat at my café table in Le Puy, fortifying myself against the mountains to come. It was all right for Bernard Hinault, leading his pals down the Champs-Élysées at the end of the Tour de France, but my ride was far from over, and I had a 5.5-mile hill up out of town. Not that I want for company, as I set off on a fine and fleecy morning, a lark, very high, and totally silenced by the stream of cars and caravans going my way on the main road to the south. And for miles, no escape from the saccharine gaze of the Madonna of Le Puy, perched over size and over pink on a volcanic peak, a monument to what God's enthusiasts can do to God's creation in the name of piety. Mark you, what can we all do to nature in the name of anything we fancy? The tourists are off to do it to the coast in the name of holidays. At the top of the hill, the road forks, and the tourists all stream off like lemmings along the Route Nationale to the left, anxious to get to the sea and throw themselves in as quickly as possible. On the right, the by-road to Chaperoux and me. Grasslands, haymaking, distant figures in wide-brimmed peasant hats, cows tinkling gently to each other, across the hoof-pocked banks of a stream bordered with silvery mint. Stone-walled fields. For the rock gets nearer to the surface here, until it breaks out into rifts and chasms as I descend to the forested banks of the River Allier. This is the country of Robert Louis Stevenson's Travels with a Donkey in the Cevennes. Not a sign of man's hand in the landscape, he said. Not a trace of his passage. And it still feels the same today, though Stevenson's own path is now signposted. Pat Villette and her husband Pierre, whom I meet in the bustling town of Mende, were among those who traced that route and got it marked for the benefit of present-day hikers, with or without donkey.
Each village remembered Stevenson. They all have a grandfather or great-grandfather who remembers Stevenson going through. And they call him Mr. Louis often.
Longley?
Yes, the Englishman. Every village cleared their bit, signposted it more or less well. We always had to do bits of it to see if it'd be properly marked. And we tried one little bit of 8 miles with the donkey. And we're dead by the end. We gave up the donkey, sent him home. It won't go when you want it to go. You have donkeys that hate water. And most of the bridges in Cevennes, you can see the water through the planks. So if ever your donkey happens to look down when you're just halfway across the bridge, you've had it. In the Cevennes, they're not lazy. They're just poor. Because the Cevennes, even till I think about 1940-something, were very, very prosperous with silkworm industry and chestnuts. Well, with the arrival of synthetic material, that was the end of the silkworm factories, The chestnuts have now, for a long time, nobody picked them anymore. They didn't sell, so it wasn't worth it. And now they've got two diseases, one that comes through roots and one through the leaves. They keep themselves, the Sevenols, I think. They want to be independent. They don't see that they can't go it alone. They'd rather see the country go to rack and ruin than have foreigners.
It's a bit like in Scotland with Western Isles. When people used to live there, now there are a lot of ruins and farms without anybody in them, you know.
What is happening in Cevennes, there are a lot of young people coming from Paris who are fed up with city life and coming down what they call artisanal, craft work, or they have a few sheep, and they manage to live like that with sheep, no electricity, no water. They sell their cheese in the markets, but they're a floating population. Yeah, they'll stay so long, and then when their children need schooling, they'll go away. They have these communities, what you call them dropouts, and most of them are not accepted by the Sevenols, especially as one. There was a rather unpleasant murder not very long ago. One of these people murdered a local butcher, and they still haven't caught him. Actually, he's in the Cevennes selling horses, but the locals won't give him up there because they hate the police even more than they hate the dropouts. The Cevennes have always been a resistance area. During the war, the Maquis, during the wars of religion, the Camisards, the Huguenots who were to be, they went into Cevennes. Nearly all the Sevenols are Protestants. You have one or two Catholics in it. But when you fought for your religion as they did, what's happening now is just... but I think it's the end. I think it's the end of the Sevenol race. Because the children all go off to Paris, become Parisiens. I think there'll be nothing left soon.
On the hills, everything puts up a prickly resistance to the sun. Juniper, sloe, box, stunted pines grow on stony grassland where people find it worthwhile to farm tiny pockets of soil caught in the hollows of the rocks. I pass a wheat field, 20 yards across. But in the valleys, so much luxuriance. Lavender growing wild by the road, harebells so big they're almost turning into columbines, succulents with pinheads of yellow flowers, a golden rock rose, wild strawberries, the white clematis of the Cevennes. This is the sound of a stream called Happiness. I'm almost through the last mountains when I come upon it, winding down through a beech wood to an alpine meadow of moving grasses. There's a sign saying Le Bonheur, and you can't turn down happiness when it's handed to you on a nameplate. So I sag onto a round stone and enjoy certified contentment in the dapple of the evening sun, my tape machine humming gently to itself as the reels go round, gathering the sounds of a reality that'll soon be gone. I wonder, as Stevenson did before me, how long something as idyllic as pastoral France can survive the technocratic 20th century. And I regret my many miles already passed, even the hills. When you cycle through a country, you develop a relationship with it. It teases you with its ups and downs. It lies low, and you bowl down the hills and speed along the flat. And then it rises up at you with something like the hill of La Malène in the Gorge du Tarn. Gigantic limestone cliffs veined by a turquoise river. La Malène was the climb of my trip. A by-road not recommended for motor vehicles. 10 dangerous hairpins, risk of falling boulders, it says on a sign at the bottom. You zigzag up for an hour in bottom gear, and after 2.5 miles, you're still pretty well where you started, only higher, with a doll's house village in the valley, far too small to get any reasonably sized doll into. And then comes the moment, following the last push, when you roll ever so gently over the brow of the hill and hear the quickening click of the free wheel as you pick up speed for the down. Stout Cortes on his peak in Darien had nothing on Fat Vernon on the brow of the hill of La Malène, and the fact that at the instant of victory I was passed by a racing cyclist standing on his pedals like a human supercharger is just one of those little slaps of fate.
Bonjour, monsieur. Oui, ici.
Providence has very poor taste in humour. But in consolation, the spellbound moment of my trip is still to come. Miles after Le Bonheur, when I pass the Col du Minier and am suddenly aware that there's only sky through the branches ahead, and beyond that, nothing but the fiery plains of Languedoc, almost 3,000 feet below, and beyond them, the Mediterranean. I thunder down 13 miles of hill to villages where you can hardly bear your hand on the stones at midday. Roads hiding from the heat in avenues of plane trees, quick lizards, gardens in which peppers and tomatoes grow like Eden, the real and separate South.
Sono arrivato in dimension a melodie de Paris, han cercat di lum village. Look up the gari and eat.
We are in Occitania here, Occitanie, and we speak our own language. French was taught in schools, was absolutely compulsory, but we have got a language here.
Homme blau, di lumati blau, drappel rucce di la main.
There's something of a revival now in the language of the troubadours, Langue d'Oc, and a small band of nationalists scrawl a defiant Oc on the road signs for the tourists to read as they head for the Mediterranean. Here, water is everything. The river, the spring, the cistern under the rock with a frog going plop in the dark from time to time. The alternative to water is the garrigue, stones baked white, scrubby bushes whose green is almost grey, a desert filled with the endless maniac cry of cicadas running a day shift and a night shift according to species. The oasis of the Garrigue is Saint-Martin-de-Landre, St. Martin of the Otter, a village clustered round a timeless fountain by which children play and old men gossip and people come to fill jerry cans with the cool, clear water spurting into worn stone channels. This is the old, simple, warm, lazy life of the South, and the tourists stop their cars to join in it for 5 minutes before heading on to the city of Montpellier. Modern society briefly rubbing shoulders with an old culture. How the traditional ways of life may continue instead of being eaten away by the pressures to develop is the French dilemma even more than it's ours. Often it's the observer from outside who values the tradition most, like Jean Joubert, northerner, poet and novelist. He's a professor at Montpellier University, but he prefers to spend his time in the outlying village he's made his home, away from the crowded beaches, away from the ribbon development of tatty holiday architecture, and away from the splendid new sun cities of the coast.
Things really changed in 25 years. When I came here, Languedoc was another world. You left the town and immediately you walk into the vineyards with little stone walls, cypress trees, old villages, people who are able to enjoy a meal, a glass of wine, a walk across the woods, to look at the sky, to relax, you see. They don't feel like working all the time as they do in so many parts of the country. To me, that's a form of civilization. That's something I appreciate. Of course, the situation of the people wasn't very good before, and now it's getting better. It's not entirely negative. But what I notice is the fact that people here are losing their personality. You see. One of my neighbors who has a tractor says, well, now I'm working much more than I did when I had my horses because I have to pay for my tractor. And that's true of many peasants in Languedoc. They must grow or they die. And growing means working more and more and losing that sort of leisure which was typical of Languedoc and part of the magic of the place. When the coast was so different from what you see now that it's extraordinary. It was a long sand beach, completely empty. You could go swimming there. There were sand dunes, a few fishermen. So it was really another world. And then when they started building La Grande Motte, Le Cap d'Agde, Port Barcarès, etc., very modern towns on the seaside, it became different. We had a few thousand tourists every year, and now we have hundreds of thousands. And the place where they built the Grande Motte was a sort of a marsh, you see. There were white horses and black bulls. You see, it was very much like La Camargue. And then came the bulldozers and the scrapers, and they started building the pyramids and so on. And you cannot really recognize the place. It's something entirely different.
Grande Motte is the most famous of the sun cities of the coast. From the distance, it looks like white cliffs in the heat haze. Close to, it becomes a futuristic structure of gay balconies and curving towers. The pyramids of the sun.
All was desert. Everything was nude.
Georges Pages is one of the men who made La Grande Motte and brought the tourists in at first by the few, then by the thousand. He still pays his creation the compliment of living there himself.
I am very proud of it, and I like it. And when I asked my children to know if they wanted to leave La Grande Motte, my children answered me, no, Pap, no, Dede, we stay in La Grande Motte again, we like La Grande Motte, and we must live in La Grande Motte.
Of course, you are, in a sense, doing exactly what the Bible says that you ought not to do. You are building your house upon sand.
Oh, yes! It's the best found. It's the best building on the sand, because everywhere on the sand is the same weight, you see? It's the same weight. Architect was quite free to do what he wanted. But it's a famous man. It's a wonderful man. You see, it's a friend of mine, yes. But it's a wonderful man because he's one of the best architects of France. Right? And he's a doctor in psychology, you see. He knows people. The only problem we had in the beginning was mosquitoes. But we struggle. We have a struggle against mosquitoes every year, and we have no mosquito in this country now. No more mosquito.
Which is just as well, because there's plenty of flesh around to bite. The nymphs of the Mediterranean tend to wear only half the normal costume. But I have more important things to do than nymph spotting. The grand weighing in, to see if I've shed any kilos over the 866.1 miles south. Monsieur Pages runs round and finds me a weighing machine.
Right. It's only a little one, isn't it? Never mind.
Could be.
Let's see what happens. Right. 1 foot. Right. 1 foot is up to, well...
Good.
It's over the top.
Over the top, over 120.
It's over 120. Yeah. I haven't lost anything. Oh, well. You can't do everything, can you?
And two final ceremonies amidst the puzzled French bathers. The first, the dipping of the big toe into the Mediterranean.
Here, you want to do it here?
Well, it feels like the Mediterranean, I must say. It's definitely wet and warm and...
Pay attention to...
Totally different from the Thames.
Yes. Pay attention to you.
Yes, the champagne. Time for the naming ceremony. Ah! My word, all over me. And there we are.
Wonderful.
And I name you Faithful Steed Velocimus. Moose because it's light and Veloci because it's bicycling. I hope none of it's gone down the horn, actually. I mean, champagne is all very well. Seems to be all right. Right, I think we made it.
And that was that, really. I put Velocimus on top of the producer's car. We left Monsieur Pages waving in the sun beneath his pyramids and went off for a lazy swim on a busy beach, just like all the other tourists. It was an interesting and lasting sort of thing to do, my bike ride. Even now, I can conjure up an image of any part of the road. I can remember the smells, the temperatures, the efforts, the flowers, the birds, the people, the landscapes. I don't suppose I shall ever do such a thing again, but France slipped into my system as I pedalled through hers that summer of 1979.